Now, at this point, you've been hearing lots and lots about, hopefully, you're okay over there, hopefully getting the message that, in fact, cultivating kindness, empathy, compassion is actually good for you. It's kind of like a vitamin for the mind, if you like, and it's actually really good for your well-being. It's really good for a sense of fulfillment in life. But as you, like I, probably find out, it's not actually that easy to have empathy and compassion for people sometimes. In fact, apparently we're evolutionarily hardwired. It's some sort of like defense mechanism we've been evolved with to quite often see the differences rather than the similarities between people. You might have noticed it since you've been here today. When you've walked in, you might have looked around and thought like, oh God, who's this person? Or what are they like? What are they wearing? Or you can see lots of different differences, and you can think of yourself as being apart from other people. It's kind of an automatic survival response. On the other hand, though, we can see that empathy and compassion are kind of good things to cultivate. So how do we go about kind of bridging the gap? Now, I'd like to share a little story, kind of traditional story with you about this. There's this, I think it's a Cherokee story, actually, a Native American story. And a grandfather speaking to his grandson, he says, "It's as if there are two wolves inside me. One is good and does no harm. He lives in harmony with all around him. He doesn't take offense where no offense was intended. He will only fight when it's the right thing to do and in the right way. But the other wolf, he's full of anger. The littlest thing gets him going, gets him into a fit of temper. He fights everyone all the time for no reason. He cannot think because his anger and hate are so great. It is helpless anger, for his anger will change nothing. Sometimes it's hard to live with these two wolves inside me, for both of them try to dominate my spirit." Now, the boy then looked intently into his grandfather's eyes and he said, "Which one wins, grandfather?" I'm going to ask you that question, actually. Which wolf do you think wins? There's two wolves warring inside him. Which wolf do you think wins? Got any ideas? The bad wolf wins. Why do you think the bad wolf wins? Hands up if you reckon the bad wolf wins. Hands up. You don't reckon the bad wolf will win. Don't know your name there. You don't reckon the bad wolf will win. You reckon the good wolf. The good wolf? Good wolf. Why will the good wolf win? No, it's her, this young lady here. Huh? You're not sure? Well, in fact, this is what the grandfather finally replies. The grandfather smiled quietly and said, "The one that wins is the one I feed." Interesting. So, taking that on a bit, I'm going to ask you all to take part in a little bit of a brain exercise here. We've been hearing about various neurological exercises that people have been doing. And now this is a chance for you to have a go. I've been eyeing up these comfy chairs, so I'm going to take a comfy chair as well. So, again, as before, Anna just introduced us to the basics of when we're dealing with the mind. It's kind of like our mind is a bit of a laboratory, which we're personally in charge of. So, that being the case, we need to kind of get the laboratory a bit tidy before we can start any experiments. It's no good if, like, the radio's on and there's cups of coffee spilt all over the floor. So, in that spirit, just like us to start off, you just like to perhaps sit yourself up just a little bit so that your mind's slightly awake. So if you're slumped like this, it tends to make you a bit sluggish. Seating yourself slightly up. And again, as before, if you'd like, you could just put your hands on your knees. And just become aware of the feeling of your hands on your knees, quite simply. With a bit of curiosity, what does it actually feel like? Not what you think it's like. What does it actually feel like? The mind wants to go off all the time. It wants to go somewhere else. It's not even under our control. But we just very gently bring it back. What's that sensation? This is very simply bringing us now into the present moment. And I'm going to ask you to have a go at a little bit of a contemplation. So, even though we have a tendency often to see differences between us, I'm going to invite you now to turn your mind to seeing some similarities. And you can begin by bringing to mind a good friend of yours. I'm going to do that now too. Now, I want you to try and think of all the things you have in common with this good friend of yours. You might have some really good memories that you share. You might like the same music. You might like to go to the same places. Maybe you shared some adventures. But actually, when you start to think about it, everybody in this room has some really profound things in common, which I'd like you to just reflect upon. Right now, as all of us are sitting here, all of us have thoughts whirring around in our heads. Everybody here has got their own little radio going on in their head. All of us have good memories and bad. Everybody here has worries. Everybody here has hopes. Everybody. Everybody here really just wants to be happy and have a good life. Everybody here really hopes that they don't have to suffer. So in fact, the people sitting around you, they're actually just another you. Everybody that's talked today, they're just another you. I want you to just rest with that idea a bit. Just like you, everyone wants to be happy. Just like you, we want to avoid having to suffer. And I want you to use this feeling and just actually try and spread this feeling that may we all actually find the happiness that we seek. First of all, I want you to spread that feeling to yourself. May I find the happiness that I seek. Make a sincere wish. Once you've got in touch with that feeling a bit, just let it glow a bit more. Try and spread it out a bit. And wish it to your neighbours sitting on either side of you. May the people on either side of me, may they have the happiness that they seek. And if your mind drifts off, just try and bring it back to that feeling. Just the feeling of wishing yourself happiness. And now let that glow get a little stronger. See whether you can imagine the whole block you're sitting in. May all these people have the happiness that they seek. And now everyone in this room, may you all be happy. Try and feel that feeling. Try and fill the whole room with that glow. Take everybody in. And now I just want you to just drop what you've been doing. Just rest your mind completely with wherever you've got to. Whether you've got anything out of that or not, just rest your mind, relax your mind. Bringing yourself back to the feeling of your hands on your knees or in your lap. Now that was a very simple, thank you very much, by the way. You did really well there, actually. I felt I could really start to feel you concentrating, so thank you for having a go. It's not always easy dealing with the mind because our minds are very, very restless. And so often we feel like we're not really in control of them and they'll wander off and fetch things and do whatever they want. But we can very gently begin to train them. But you've got to realize, it's a bit like learning the guitar or something. I don't know whether any of you have had a go at learning an instrument. It's really difficult at first. And so you may think, I'll never get the hang of this. This is just impossible. But in fact, very gradually, your mind can become incredibly powerful. So you've kind of had a go at first step. That was a very simple exercise because we haven't got much time. But it gives you some idea of how you can begin to make decisions about what your mind does.